So everybody getting outdoors, it's a big deal. It's an important thing. It's 100% a part of our tech ecosystem here in Pittsburgh. We don't have a great quality of life, if we don't have parks to get out to, nature to hang out with, and kind of get away from the hubbub of every day, we're not going to go far as a region. And our region is blessed with an incredible number of parks. My favorite parks are our county parks. We've got 9 of them, and they're all wonderful. And today we are talking to Caren Glotfelty, who's the executive director of the Allegheny County Parks Foundation. And of course, making this happen today is Comcast, helping me tell these 50 stories. And Caren, we're about halfway through our storytelling. And I was really looking forward to doing this story because, you know, to be totally transparent to our viewers and listeners, I'm on the board of the Parks Foundation. I think it's such an important organization that's really helping people get out in nature and just connect. And that's why I'm excited to talk to you today, because your background and experience is just simply amazing. And what you've done with the Parks Foundation has been so impactful. I mean, I see it every time I ride my bike out in the county parks. I think I see more people out there than ever as far as that goes. So Caren, thanks for talking to me today. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Real quickly, what's your background real fast? I know you've got a pretty fascinating background. You've done a lot of cool things in your career. And I think the Parks Foundation is so lucky to have you because, like I said, you're really the one that's put this thing into overdrive and has really made that impact happen.
Well, yeah, my Parks Foundation job is kind of my post-retirement gig.
Okay.
But after a year, I was asked to come back and lead the Allegheny County Parks Foundation. I started my professional life with a degree in landscape architecture and regional planning.
Ah.
It's what brought me to Pennsylvania from California, where I was born and raised.
Okay.
I've had a number of jobs across the state, most of them in state government. At one time, I ran all the water programs for the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Resources as a deputy secretary. I taught natural resources policy at Penn State for a few years. And then I worked at the Heinz Endowments as the environment program director for 13 years, and I retired from there. And but I love the Parks Foundation job because it truly is a capstone. It's brought every single thing I ever learned in my previous life to bear in trying to figure out how you run a small but mighty nonprofit organization, how you work in a positive way with government. We are the very close partner of the Allegheny County Parks Department and Allegheny County in making the parks better, and that relationship is just so strong and so positive. I don't know. I don't think I ever want to retire again.
I was going to say, it's always important if it brought you out of retirement. I mean, that's like saying something like, we got a gig for you. Like, wait a second, I got stuff to do. Like,
I think it's so cool. Our office is in Boyce Park, and I look out over the park every day. It's wonderful.
I do miss being there for board meetings because every time I go there, I feel like I'm in elementary school, like looking at like something about it reminds me of being in school as a kid and having the nature so close. And or maybe it's the old snake tank that's in the one where it makes me feel like I'm in a school, but it's an awesome facility. It definitely plugs you right into the park. That's for sure.
Yep, exactly.
I would be highly distracted if I worked there. So Allegheny County, like I said, it's a very unique thing that the foundation works so closely with the county itself. I mean, at the board meetings, we have Rich Fitzgerald there, which is always great. I know this is one of his passions, without a doubt. And so we have 9 of these awesome parks. And I think people don't always realize that there's 9 of them. I mean, is that like a lot of parks for an area the size of Allegheny County compared to like the rest of the country, do you think?
It's, I don't know where we rank in terms of these county and metropolitan parks systems, but I know we're way up there in terms of not only the number of parks, but the number of acres in parks. We've got 12,000 acres in our 9 county parks, and that's a lot of land.
Yes.
I've looked for lists that somebody may have compiled of systems, and the only list I've ever been able to come up with only ranked the size of city park systems.
Gotcha.
Of course, we're the whole county of Allegheny. So someday maybe somebody will do that research, but I know we're very blessed to have such a large and diverse set of parks here.
Absolutely. I mean, with 12,000 acres, that means there's a lot of room for bears to be wandering about, right?
Bears.
So one of my favorite things, I have to bring it up, I think one of the first times I interviewed you, I was like thinking, man, I know there's a bear out there somewhere. And I'm like, Caren, has there ever been a bear sighting in a county park?
Well, I think after that, Jonathan, you asked me that question. I didn't know. I went back and asked Andy Beckley, our parks director, if he ever had seen bears, and he said he thought that a bear had been seen in North Park.
Surprised me.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think it's quite possible. These are big tracts of land with a lot of forest cover, and I think it's highly possible that there might be bears there from time to time.
Absolutely. So what would you say is your favorite of the county parks, or can you actually pick a favorite of the county parks?
Well, I shouldn't name a favorite county park. I'm going to share the love among all the parks, but I'll tell you, I like to watch birds. I won't tell you I'm an expert bird watcher, but I like to watch birds. And Harrison Hills is one of our lesser known parks, I think.
Right, exactly.
But it really is a wonderful place for bird watching because of its location up above the Allegheny River.
Right on the bluff there, right?
Flyway, for migrating hawks and eagles, and it's got a pretty diverse landscape. So that, if you're a bird watcher, it's a great place to be. But I love each of our county parks is really different from each other.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah,
It has a feel to it. It really does.
Yeah. So they each have their own strengths and own, unique features. So I think we've just got a system that people need to visit every one of the
Exactly. I agree. There should be like a tour. You check it off on a calendar.
That's right. That's right.
My favorite park, South Park today, which makes me, I feel like I could go to South Park right now. I'd love to be out there right now riding my bike and being between the and all that kind of fun stuff.
Yeah. Well, Jonathan, you're a biker, so you ought to organize a tour to parks where
that would be awesome.
Park to park and then around each park,
Oh, now you're talking. That gives me an idea now. That could be so much fun. I would love it. Great way to showcase these 9 jewels that we have.
Yeah, I think so.
Without a doubt. So this year's been crazy. As we all know, 2020 has been the year of COVID-19. I think they should have called it COVID-20, as far as I'm concerned. But
good point.
It's forced many of us to refigure our plans. And one of the big things, the highlight of the Parks Foundation is the Twilight Picnic in the park at Heartland Acres. It happens in August. I mean, this is just a beautiful event, and it is just a huge fundraiser, and it does so much to help the park execute on what it does, and we'll go into that in a little bit. But this year's a little different. We can't get folks safely into tight spaces and tents and things like that. So we kind of switched it up. Can you tell us how we're switching it up and trying to raise awareness of the parks and also generate some much needed funds in order to keep these parks accessible and keep them the awesome things that they are?
Yeah, well, like every other nonprofit organization in Pittsburgh, from, sort of when we first became aware that COVID was going to be around for a while, we kept going through various plans. Plan A was to do our 4th wonderful Twilight Picnic, as you described it, and we quickly went to Plan B, which was fewer people, and then Plan C, which was no people and virtual, and that just didn't seem like it was going to work really well because a lot of people were doing that. So we finally, we're very lucky to have had some loyal supporters of our Twilight Picnics, and we reached out to them and said, hey, what would you think if instead of sponsoring an event to raise money for the Parks Foundation and our operations, you sponsor the parks this year and give us, let us keep the money that you've pledged to us, and we'll use that to support our operations to continue to work with the county on making the parks better and better. And every single one of our sponsors said that sounds like a great idea.
Love it.
So what we're going to be doing is a series of social media ads that'll be on Facebook and other platforms, on our own website, and we'll be thanking our sponsors in that way with really cool ads. You'll like them a lot, very catchy taglines, and it's a way to say thank you and recognize our financial sponsors. It's a way to keep our organization and in people's minds, so that hopefully next year in 2021 we'll all be able to safely gather again and do another Twilight picnic. But it has the added benefit of letting the public know how valuable the parks have been.
Exactly.
To many people this summer. We don't have a way to regularly track attendance at the parks.
We need a little turnstile. People just push them through.
Yeah.
And get reports,
Well, we thought maybe one of those things that you put in the street when you're
the little cable. You walk and drive over
cars. Since so many of the people who visit the park come in cars. We did a survey about 5 years ago, and we plan to do that again. But that's a pretty labor-intensive process, and you don't do it every month. But we have noticed that the parking lots are overflowing in a way that we haven't seen during the summer in most areas of most of our parks. And so many of them have bike racks on the back, and the bikes are off the racks, so we know people are out there.
They're in the woods.
In the parks. So we do have ways of measuring what the use of our parks are that's more qualitative than quantitative. And we know that people, especially people maybe who've been working remotely or perhaps have been furloughed even, how important it has been for them to have this big open space, beautiful, not far from home, where they can kind of get out and get some respite by being in nature and just kind of feel a little freer than you do when you're cooped up at home all day.
I would say I fall directly into that category. I tell you, my tonic, my antidote is getting on my bike and being in the parks. That is for sure. And it's amazing, man. You get out there and just spend a few hours, you just realize things are going to be cool. Everything's going to be
And we hired a videographer to put together a little 4-minute video that kind of captures what people are doing in the parks. And it's not quite ready to publish yet, but boy, there's some awesome stories that people are telling about.
Absolutely.
Very important these parks have been for their mental health, their physical health, even their spiritual health. And
yes.
It's just, I think, a very poignant example of how valuable this resource is and has been.
Absolutely, 100%. I can't wait for that video to come out. I saw a sneak peek of it the other day, and I was like, I kept watching it on loop for about 15 minutes because it was so much fun. I was like, oh man! And what I love about it is that it's here in Pittsburgh. It's here in Allegheny County. And that's what makes it to me so magical, is that all this beauty and wonderment is a short drive. For me, like a long bike ride. I like riding my bike to the park because I'm kind of weird.
Yeah.
But anyhow, but for me, it's like, we're just so blessed with these parks. So let's talk about some of the cool projects that the Parks Foundation is doing. One of the biggest ones that are underway is the sculpture garden at Heartland Acres. This is an amazing thing because I remember my first interaction with the sculpture garden there was probably about 20 years ago when I was first starting to ride my bike at Heartland Acres, and I had no idea what these sculptures were. They were random. They were kind of falling apart. I used to actually ride my bike up and onto them sometimes from place to place. Oh yeah. I mean, everyone else did too. Like, why not? And then I realized when I joined the board that these are some pretty important sculptures. And they need to be restored, and they need to be put into a proper context.
Yeah, exactly.
Tell us about that.
Yeah. Well, I think that all came about. I know that all came about in the mid-1980s.
Okay.
And Heartwood was open to the public. And the parks director at the time said, this is going to be the arts and culture park of the 9-county park system in Allegheny County, because it has this beautiful mansion, and they anticipated giving tours and, holding events in the mansion. But the parks director built an amphitheater, which is still there today, and it's of the summer concert series. Of course, that series isn't happening this year, although the Parks Department's doing some pretty cool stuff on the internet also. But the Parks Director happened to be Carol Brown, who later went on to become head of the Cultural Trust, and she knew a lot of artists and imagined what it would be like to put artworks around the park. And all of them were donated, 12, I believe, were donated to the county at that time. But she went on to do other things. And, I don't know that the county realized what it would take to keep these pieces up.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
Rust and the paint faded, and some of them were vandalized with graffiti, and they're important works of art. Some of them are, well, most of them are by well-known artists who have international reputations. They're worth quite a lot of money. The whole collection is several $1 million worth of artwork.
I know that, thinking back in the day when these things were out there, there was no markers telling you what they were. We just were there, and it was like, yeah, I'll just put my front tire up on this thing. Yeah, no worries.
Exactly. So,
I had no idea.
So it's really funny. When I first came to the Parks Foundation, people would, say things to me about the sculptures. They would either say, you have got to find the money to restore these and do some interpretation, or the other side of the coin was, could you just get rid of them? And the answer to that was, no, we can't. So we, the Parks Foundation started raising money to restore the pieces, and as you put it, I think was the right terminology, put them in their proper context, do some lovely landscaping, build some accessible walkways, interpret them, and just make it a lovely new destination in Heartwood Acres. And so that we have been restoring them over this past summer. Some of them you can already see. The two of them were completed, restoration completed on site recently, and they look great.
Awesome.
There are several that are at a conservation laboratory in Ohio that are going to be coming back in August. And so, gradually the pieces will be added. The construction of the garden aspects, the landscaping, the walkways, the lighting, the plant materials, signage, that will all happen in 2021.
Gotcha. It's so exciting to see that come back. So I think that becomes this very unique thing in a county park. We all think of the parks as like, hiking and biking and, playing tennis. But the idea that we have this really cool sculpture garden with crazy, like famous, sculptures, and then to actually have them be interpreted and in their context and be able to be part of that and go through it, I think is really amazing. And it really sets the county parks apart. That's for sure. Yeah.
And we're already imagining that this whole setting now will be a wonderful place for events like little jazz concerts. Definitely. Or those little cocktail parties, little educational tours. There are a lot of ways to activate this area that I also think is going to add interest and activity to the park.
Definitely. So I wonder if we talk about maybe one or two more projects quickly. Like, one of the things I think is really interesting are the Cascades.
Yes.
Back in South Park, which I think are just absolutely amazing.
Yeah, so the Cascades is a whole different kind of feature. South Park was one of the first two parks and that were part of the Allegheny County Parks system. And the parks director in the late 20s and early 30s was a landscape architect who loved kind of the Frank Lloyd Wright style of
Paul Reese was
Paul Reese was his name. And he designed just an amazing set of features in both North and South Park, one of which is called the Cascades. And it was there was a natural spring in this particular location. And Paul Reese quarried stone out of another part of the park and built up a series of flat rock little cliffs and pools and waterfalls. And it's rather small in scale, but it's like a series of wading pools. And you can see old photographs of families going there in the 40s and 50s, sitting around, dangling their feet in the water.
Having some fun, being part of nature, right?
Having a good time. You'd think that maybe you were at Yellowstone or something when you
Exactly.
It's really, really cool.
I'll admit, I actually rode my bike on that as well, too, back in the day in South Park.
Right.
The trail went right by there, and we always knew that these old pools there, and you could ride around the rim on your bike. That was tons of fun.
Oh boy, oh boy. Well, there's a really cool video that the Pittsburgh Penguins Foundations did that's on our website that you can, if you're interested in looking at that site. But the Pittsburgh Penguins have are an important partner for this project. They're contributing about a quarter of the cost of restoration. The counties, and we've raised money. So that project the construction's supposed to start this fall.
Exactly. I'm so excited about that.
Yeah, 2021. It's going to be wonderful.
Yeah, to see it come back and people could actually know it's there and experience it as it was meant to be experienced back in the 1930s, I think it's just amazing. What's more amazing is the story that you're at the Parks Foundation doing what you're doing, because just the two examples you've given us right now just to show you the power of having an organization that brings these different entities together to make things happen and make our ecosystem better, to make our environment better, so we can all chill out and enjoy a little nature and see some sculptures and have some fun.
Yeah, exactly. And, I think the Parks Foundation has been really, really important because these are projects that the county loves, but they probably wouldn't have risen to the priority level necessary to bring them about because they're sort of expensive and the county budget is limited, and he's got to spend its money keeping up the picnic shelters and the road systems and all of those things. And to spend $1 million on restoring the Cascades probably wouldn't have been something possible for the county to do. But
I mean, $1 million pays a lot of roads.
Private dollars,
right?
Yeah, then it really makes it a priority.
That's why I think it's so cool that this organization exists. You're here leading it up. I'm just honored to be on the board playing a little teeny tiny part in the whole thing. And telling a little bit of that story today, I think has just been super fantastic. I just encourage everybody to participate in the parks, give some money to the Parks Foundation because they're doing this great work that just wouldn't happen otherwise. Caren, you are making Pittsburgh proud. I love it.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Good stuff all around, everybody. And once again, get out there, be active, have fun. Pittsburgh's got 9 awesome county parks. They're all fun in their own different way.